So your art actually
Yeah.
entered into performance spaces in certain ways.
Yeah, right. At that conference in Santa Cruz, at the University of Santa Cruz, I had a big sculpture that's called Amelia, which is about a big white satin circle about that big with 10-foot wings, ribbons dripping down. That was over the, hung from the, in the stage during the whole conference, and it was great because it kept turning because it was kinetic, so it kept turning in space. And then they, for a dance performance, they threw light on it, yellow and red and green light on it. And then I made these things called dance wings, and they're not in this show, but they're made out of mylar, and they're a form like this. You saw those dance wings, didn't you? And you put them on you, and you just start dancing, and it's really great. They make such a wonderful noise, you know, all this, you know, stuff. And then if the lights on them, it's like a mirror, like at the bottom of a swimming pool. You know, and it reflects, and it reflects all over any surface. So those are pretty spectacular.
Well, you've done so much. You've done a lot of photography, sculpture, performance, and I was interested to see these little drawings that you can draw too. I mean, very well. I mean, you can draw, you paint, you do photography, sculpture. What would you say? You've had a life of art making. You've had a life that's been rich in terms of all the interactions and really, all the places you've gone, all the people you've met, and all the different. It's really kind of astonishing. Do you reflect or ever ask yourself, what are the deepest things about this? I mean, do you ever do that sort of thing? That kind of looking inward and asking something like that?
I am exceedingly grateful. I'm really grateful that I have been able to, all these years, spend my life making things and getting my creativity to become three-dimensional. So it's not just in my head, you know, it's out here, and be able to share it with people. I just feel really, really happy about that. And
are there things that, when you reflect, stand out as the things that you feel most deeply, or the things that seem to come together in a way that stands apart a little bit from the rest of it? That the sort of, I hate to use the word high points, that seems trivializing somehow. You know, something that feels like this is and was something close to the heart of something.
Interesting question. Well, I think this show might be something that I'm able to really kind of manifest a lot of my ideas, because I don't know about you, but I've always had dreams of flying. Flying, you know? So you see a few wings around here. And I like birds, and pelicans. I think pelicans are just extraordinary. And they get to fly, and they, you know, look it down on. And so this show really expresses that whole idea of flight and being able to soar, you know. Actually, the closest thing I found to flying is downhill skiing on a sunny day. You know, that's the closest I came to it.
That's wonderful.
But I'm really interested in flying, and I mean, you know, I'm a little obsessed with it, I think. I mean, if you look around.
kind of feel that that is just the perfect place to sort of open this up if people want to ask you a question. I feel somehow that just as a beautiful, something about the dream of flight that speaks of the depth of possible freedom in ourselves somehow. You know? The possibility of a kind of freedom that we don't even know about, perhaps, but intuit, kind of.
Right.
You think it'd be okay to?
Sure. If anyone.
Anybody wants to ask any questions? I would like to say that the necklace, that's how I see that on the wall. They're the feathers with the little gold. You put gold on those feathers, right?
No, I can't claim that I did. I bought them that way.
I see. All right, well.
I just liked them.
And I was thinking that probably Nefertiti would be happy to wear that if it wasn't as big as it is. And did you feel any connection with anything Egyptian when you looked at that?
My father had a little bust. He and my mother went to Egypt, I think when I was little, and they came back with just a little bust of Nefertiti with this wonderful headdress with a flat surface on top. It was like a cone. And I really tuned in as a child to Egypt. Oh, I know, in 6th grade I had to do a paper, and I did wigs. I wrote a paper about wigs, and I started in Egypt. And I learned all about wigs and the fact that the ruling class had shaved their heads, the women shaved their heads, and they wore all these fancy schmancy wigs. And then they would put little balls of perfumed wax in them. And you know it's very hot in Egypt. And so they would start dripping down the face, and I thought that was amazing. And then I did this whole thing about, I went through the ages and went up to Marie Antoinette. Do you know she had 300 different wigs? And the reason why the doors at Versailles are so tall is because some of those wigs were this high, and so the women could walk through with their wigs on. And of course they powdered them with flowers, so there were lice all over the place. And so they would have these little long peak things, and they would, oh, Jesus. And they have ships on them, and the wigs were just extraordinary at that period. So I did, so I went from Egypt to Marie Antoinette in one fell swoop.
Well, that's a fascinating transition.
Yes, Jason.
Well, I was going to say I'm fascinated by this work that you're sitting in right now, and the commemoration. And can you talk a little bit about the process of doing it? And
sure.
Sort of where the inspiration comes from?
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely fascinated with birds that do this. These particular ones are starlings, and I watched a lot of videos of them swooping and turning, and in a nanosecond the whole thing changes, and it's just amazing. And why they don't all run into each other and just fall to the ground, I have absolutely no idea. I don't understand that. I want to do more research, but I got the idea of doing one here because I wanted to do some new work, because this is 50 years of work and that happened to be about birds in my career, but I wanted to do some new work. So I thought, a murmuration, that would be great. So I looked at all these videos, and this is actually a still from a video, and I had 600 birds laser cut out of paper. I did not cut these birds.
And how many different, because I'm seeing so much variety as where they're flying.
There's really only 3.
Are there only 3?
Yeah.
They can be flipped, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Right. There's the wings down,
Yeah.
wings spread, and wings up.
That's it?
That's it. But if you flip them, They look. Then there's 6 variations.
It's just beautiful.
Thank you.
And I noticed that the circular piece up at the end there, you used those, and that you
Yeah.
painted a little bit of
I did,
feathers on
because
them.
in reality they have iridescence around their throats.
And then you did a little painting of the little ones on the wires.
Yeah, that's from a photograph I took of birds
That's
on
a
the
lovely,
wire.
I mean, that
Thank
circular
you. Yeah,
piece.
I have 3 more. In order to get those beveled edged canvases, I had to get them from an art store in Miami, and they wouldn't send me 1, they sent me 3. So I have 3 more like that, and I have big ideas about what I'm going to do with them. They're going to have to do with these starlings too. So
That's a passenger pigeon up there?
that's Martha. Yeah, Martha the messenger. She was the last passenger pigeon in this country who died in the Chicago Zoo in 1927. And that's an homage to Martha. Now, passenger pigeons apparently were just so all over the place. There were so many of them that in the 1900s and 1920s, that people used to just slaughter them for sport. It's like the buffalo, they're just for sport, you know. Anyway, so I decided to do an homage to Martha.
That's wonderful.
And then the other thing about it is that messages are sent through letters, and that was a collection of stamps that my father had. And so I inherited those, and I put it all together. And the maps are from Peter's mothers. Those are wonderful National Geographic maps, which had, from the 40s and the 50s, they had that beautiful color. And so I just kind of put it all together into that composition.
And then that piece up there with the wire and the feathers hanging, it's sort of ineffable, a little breeze or something, and it moves the feathers.
Yeah, those are cockatoo feathers. Yeah.
And there was something, I heard that someone walked by it and sort of messed it up, and you had to
Yeah, well, they're very lightweight, and they just go.
So that became kind of somehow, to me, an additional benefit of the whole piece, that it could be like, and it was not destroyed, and you could.
Yeah, I just
sort
put
of
it back together.
it breathes.
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, it
you know.
does.
Well, listen, I think this is great. I thank you for sharing all this. I mean, what an
Thank you very
amazing,
much.
Kind of a quick passage through this wonderful, amazing adventure that you've had in living, which continues. Hopefully, I say this for all of us here, many more years.
Really,
right?
many more years, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Yay. Thank you. Yay.